And welcome back. The organization Minority Millennials has been committed to bridging the gap between policy culture and helping hundreds of black, brown youth access jobs, build wealth, as well as become civically engaged. Now, they aim to become the nation's leading resource for emerging generations of color as they seek equity in social, political, and economic developments. We've got joining us the founder and president of Minority Millennials, Lloyd. And Dan, good to have you with us. And when you talk about bridging the gap, it's definitely something that's necessary, needed. When we look at young millennials of color, for many, it's an uphill battle.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think, part of our mission and why we started this was really to kind of better define and clarify what civic engagement means, what policy means, and really how we like to kind of storytell it is talk about it in reference to power, how power works, and how that a lot of young people in general say that they're not interested or they don't care about politics. But quite frankly, if you ask them, how would you feel if someone took something from you or made you do something that you did not want to do? Would that impact your life or your family and community? And a lot of times, when you're not involved in the political process, you are actually being forced to do something that you don't want to do. So that's how we kind of streamline and storytell why it's very important to be civically engaged.
And so, for yourself, obviously, you're the president and founder, and you found this with a purpose and a mission. And give us a little bit more of the background into the mission, because when you look at the millennial population, it's a population that really is at the cusp of, doing some great things, and you're really catching people at a great time of life, I should say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're unique. I'm 36, so I'm a little bit of an older millennial. Millennials are getting older. Millennials are now 41. So to give some context, if you're 26 to 41 years old, you're a millennial, and if you're 12 to 23, you're considered a Gen Z. So we actually kind of now cater to millennials and Gen Z. But if you're like me, born in the late 80s, you kind of have a little bit of that old school education where it was before the iPhone, but then you also were blessed with technology. And the next generation, Gen Z, was really kind of born in that iPhone era since 2007. So we have the unique ability, more than any other generation in human history, to connect with people from all backgrounds and from all races and really from across the globe. And at the same time, have the most access to information. So we're really trying to empower black and brown millennials and Gen Z. We can give them a lot more information than they've had in the past. On the flip side, it's also extremely hard for our generation to focus. And so we have to make sure that when we're talking about these issues, they're very clear and they're presented in a way that our demographic can easily understand and then take it and make action with it. So that's a huge component to making sure that there's success with engaging millennials.
And when you tell me about millennials, you talk about the work that they got going on in the community and how they're trying to really transcend and make it, and make an impact here in the United States and America and beyond. You think about the fact that this is a very powerful group. It's a very powerful generation. When you talk about the contributions and the things that are going on in the lives of millennials right now, I mean, these are the people that you see sometimes presidents, CEOs of companies, really influencers. You're looking at the generation of people who really are making a lot of decisions for the way that we're going as a country right now, too. When you look at politics, you see mostly millennials that are out there in government office. So I want to just have a moment, because when we talk about this culture, and having millennials actually take their rightful place in the culture. I know that that's a part of what you're doing, right? Is assisting them to say, listen, you have a place in the culture, but not just having a place, having a voice, and securing that voice.
Yeah, absolutely. And millennials and Gen Z, quite frankly, combined are now the largest workforce demographic in the nation. We are also now the largest voting base in the nation. So when you combine political involvement and potential workforce capital, we have a lot of leverage. And so it's really just educating our demographic and our generation on how to utilize that leverage. Are we going to do it for the better good? as our parents and grandparents advocated for? Are we going to make sure that there's intergenerational wisdom being passed down? We don't need to recreate the wheel. We can utilize technology to make sure that we're advancing our racial equity causes so that for the sake of time, things are actually getting done and there's proof of progress being made. And also that we are really defining what culture means. So we like to bridge that gap when we say that we're talking about our influence and the need for equity in entertainment, our influence and the need for equity in entrepreneurship. And are we really becoming owners and having ownership in industries that we've made global? When you talk about entertainment and hip hop, it's the number one music genre in the world. So is now millennials, are we making sure that they're the CEOs and owners of these record labels and the new ones that are coming up? And the same thing when it comes to companies. Are we the CEOs and the ones that are making decisions as to who sits at the table of the board? We recently just saw that with Kanye and Adidas, and I'm hoping that there was some equity conversations in that transaction.
Yeah, when we talk about, we could go a whole show on Kanye right there. I mean,
Okay.
that's a show that's a show all by
Yeah,
itself. But one of the things that we
yeah,
can does not, that can be said is that the Kanye deal and the Kanye coming back, it's all based on money. Let's just keep it for
oh
what
yeah,
it is. It's all based
yeah,
on money. And one thing that you do, I know that the work goes on because it's about wealth, right? Because I think when you talk about millennials, these are people who are trying to make money, making decent money, and some doing pretty good. When you talk about New York City, it's not hard sometimes to get a six-figure income because it almost requires six figures just to live here. But
yeah.
having six figures means nothing uh, if you can't acquire wealth. And so, talk to me about your building wealth strategy and what are you doing with minority millennials to really educate them in this area?
Yeah, when we talk about income, as you mentioned, like income is great for maintaining and getting by, but wealth is something that really gives you the convenience of a quality of life. Building wealth gives you the freedom to really pursue your dreams rather than just working, regardless if you're making six figures. So, as an organization on Long Island specifically, we've been doing a lot of work when it comes to procurement and making sure that not only are our businesses in our network in our community certified to work on a lot of the construction and the industries that are coming to this region, like offshore wind, cannabis. We just partnered with Sands New York. They're a multi-billion-dollar resort company, and they literally partnered with us, a small nonprofit, to do pipeline development with diverse talent and NWBEs. We have a procurement academy tonight, actually, March 1st. So when we talk about generational wealth, are our millennial-led companies getting multi-figure contracts to do steel pipeline? Are they getting contracts to do construction and trade? Are they getting contracts to do the engineering of these projects on Long Island? And that's really where you build generational wealth because if you look at historically, these are contracts that go through each generation of a family. They've been going on for 50, 60, 80 to 100 years. And we want to position our companies and our demographic to now be able to take a chunk of that equity in these industries. And then lastly, we'll talk quickly about financial literacy as Earn Your Leisure and a lot of these new uh, platforms have been doing very well, explaining how to leverage the stock market and also how to build wealth through home ownership and property ownership.
Yeah, you talk about Earn Your Leisure. I know everybody's not so familiar, but these are some guys who are really doing a great job of educating when it comes to wealth and wealth building and how to really navigate financially. When you talk about millennials, I know a lot of people who are actually linked to Earn Your Leisure, and they seem to be doing a great job in learning and becoming more educated. I want to get
Yeah,
your I want to get your take on this. You're recognized as one of the city and state's top 40 under 40. What's it like for you being able to have this honor?
Oh, it's a blessing. I've been blessed. I would say I've been privileged to come from a family that was really trying to educate me on a lot of these things. It just took me 30 years to figure it out. So when I did, I was able to really kind of evolve and align with what my father and my mother were trying to instill into me. And also, I've been blessed with a huge mentor network, and I have a great colleague network. So really, just being able to inject our mission as an organization into a region that is hungry. And honestly, though, after the summer of 2020, there was a lot of commitments to racial equity from major banking institutions to law enforcement And as a demographic, we have to make sure that they're accountable to those things. And I make sure personally and professionally that we are accountable to those commitments and benefiting from those commitments, quite frankly. So it's been a blessing. It's been a journey. It's not easy as a social entrepreneur. That's what I like to define myself as. But it's been exciting if you can really merge the culture and the policy component and do it well. There's a lot of exciting things, and I'm sure we'll talk about the summit we have coming up because Earn Your Leisure is actually guest speakers at a summit.
Yeah, I want to talk about the summit, and I'll give you a chance to talk about it. But let me start with this question, then we'll come back and talk about that. Economic development is so huge, right? And so many times, uh, people who are of brown descent are left out of that conversation and not even getting a seat at the table, but forget the seat at the table, just being excluded, period. Talk to me about what you want, what your goal is, how you're dealing with, economic development and how you see things, and then we can talk about the conference.
Yeah, economic development is completely tied together with generational wealth. Because when you talk about economic development on a policy level, it's really understanding when someone like Governor Hochul makes an announcement on RFA. It could be an RFA, a request for proposal on a major project, but then you need 3 years of business credit or business experience to even submit for that proposal. So economic development is really educating our community about if you do not have that and you're not certified to do business in the state of New York, then you need to network and partner with somebody that is and is looking to possibly have a subcontractor. And that's where we come in and help nurture and develop the businesses to make sure that they're a part of that economic opportunity. But also just tapping into resources that a lot of people just don't have the capacity or the bandwidth because they're working day to day to really step outside of their mental box for 15 and 20 minutes and take a look and see how can this benefit their entrepreneurial dreams or even if they have an existing property. So economic development is completely tied into policy. Is really just helping to educate the person or the individual on what that looks like. And we like to focus on capital and business contracts on the state. So I serve on the Long Island Regional Economic Development Council. So I've been privileged to have access to a lot of developments that are coming down to this region. And then I can then share that with our community and our demographic. And also, more importantly, make sure they're prepared to take advantage of these RFPs before they come out.
And while we're talking, let's get right to the conference and the summit. We want to get into that.
Yeah, we are the future. That's the name of the summit. It's called We Are the Future. But quite frankly, as you already mentioned, millennials, we are now. We are literally at the helms of leadership. We have the ability to make decisions that our parents and grandparents were not able to make. So we have a lot of responsibility, and that's what this conference is focused on. We're partnering with city and state actually to provide a conference that bridges the gap between policy and culture. We have Senator Jamal Bailey, who I know is from the Bronx, as well as Councilman Kevin Riley, Councilwoman Natasha Williams, Senator Jessica Ramos. We have New York City Public Advocate Jamani Williams. We have Senator Kevin Thomas, Assemblywoman Taylor Darling. So we really, really wanted to get some of our black and brown leadership on the state, city, and local level and connect them with our high school students, connect them with the young professionals across the region. And each panel is going to talk about the future of power, quite frankly, the future of workforce, the future of economic development. And then we also have that live chat with Earn Your Leisure that we're going to really be able to talk and sit with them and talk about their journey and where they see our industry and our culture going when it comes to economic development. We do have a meet and greet with them. It's going to be a career fair as well. So we have a lot of offshore wind developers, a lot of cannabis focused industries, a lot of advanced manufacturing industries that are going to be on hand actively recruiting at the summit. So we are the future, April 27th, live at David S. Mack Complex and Arena at Hofstra University.
Got to be pretty exciting for you. And I know a labor of love, but at the same time, also a lot goes into putting something like this together.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm not bald for no reason, and I'm trying to make sure that I stay a little bit looks like I'm in my 30s. But I've been blessed to have a great team. We have an incredible team. City and State is a great partner. Shout out to Lisa and the entire staff. So, we're excited. We had a call today. It's coming together well. So we're blessed. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah. Before we go, I want to just get your take on this here, right? Millennials are sometimes misunderstood. Sometimes people don't understand who they are, what they're
Yeah.
about. What's the biggest misconception that you can break down real time for us when it comes to our millennial culture?
I would say one is that we're highly educated. Our demographic was coached to go to higher education. And I'm speaking specifically about black and brown millennials. We went to HBCUs. We got our bachelor's degrees. We have our master's degrees. Some even have our PhDs. So we're extremely educated. We're also very much purpose driven. So not only are we getting the educational necessary requirements to do what we want to do, but we also are following our passions, our purpose. So we're not just doing this to make money, we're doing this to have an impact. So social purpose is big for our demographic. We're not lazy. And quite frankly, we make more money than our parents and grandparents. It's just that the cost of living and inflation has made the quality of life that the American dream is supposed to provide a lot harder to attain. But we're putting a lot of responsibility on our backs. We're creating this economy. We're also educating and mentoring the Gen Z population. So we're in a unique situation to blend the traditional American society with the advanced technology American society that we're going into.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you so much for being with us, and I mean, best wishes with all that goes on for the conference and the summit. We know it's going to be an awesome time. But I want to thank you for taking the time to spend with us because I think it's really important that we understand and try to break down some of these real time issues that millennials and particularly millennials of black and brown descent are dealing with. But you're doing a great job of bridging the gap, doing a great job of really providing an outlet where people can go. And if not, you wouldn't be recognized the way that you're recognized. But thank you so much for what you do, man. And hopefully we'll get you back soon and we can talk more about this.
Love it. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the platform. I really appreciate that. And hopefully you could attend the summit. We got to follow up. It'll be good.
Hey, man, love to. So get me in and I'm there. If you if I get a seat, I'll get in.
All right, copy. Got you.
All right, then. Dear Lord, our
All
guest.
right.
Listen, got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Coming up after this.